Authenticity to me is when you're living a life that is aligned with your beliefs and your values that society has not deemed that is right for you. And you have not conformed to anything that society has. The issue is that we don't go back later in life to readdress what is it that our beliefs are? What is our values? Because we've just been told what those beliefs and values are throughout our whole life, but those things can change.
Your family, the society, your teachers, your friends, whoever, the neighbors, whatever, the peanut gallery, all of that absolutely is giving messages for sure. And you are being spoon-fed more than baby food when you're little. And mostly, I prefer to think all well-meaning, even if it seems misguided. However, exclamation point, you create your reality.
All right. Welcome to the Alignedest podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nikhil Sharma, and I'm so grateful to have you all here with us today. In today's topic, we're going to be tackling something that is often misunderstood in our world, authenticity. Why is it when someone dares to be their true self, society labels them as crazy or too much? Yet authenticity is the very essence of personal power and freedom. Joining us today to help us unpack this term authenticity is the wonderful excitement whisperer, the author of The Best Life Ever, Taylor Wells. Thanks, Taylor, for joining us as usual. We're so grateful to have you here with us today.
Hi, Dr. Nick. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. And this is one of my very favorite things to chat about, authenticity.
Love it. So why don't we dive right into it? What does authenticity mean to you? What does that look like, for our viewers to understand, what is it like to be real or authentic?
Yeah. So actually, when you first asked that, Dr. Nick, I thought you were talking to the viewers or the listeners. And so hopefully when he asked that question, what popped up in your brain? What feeling came into your body around authenticity? Because as Dr. Nick said, a lot of people misunderstand this term, and they misunderstand what the result of walking through the world as their authentic self will be. What will that net? Oh my goodness, that would be crazy. Well, I don't believe that. It's valid because all beliefs are valid. I believe in a Trinity, right? So there's what I prefer, what I don't prefer, and then in the middle is neutrality, right? So it's a nice, beautiful triangle. I don't prefer the idea of acting as if you are someone else so that you will be accepted or liked. The reason why is that I believe that the reason that we're all here, your sole purpose is to be authentic, is to be you. And I will define what that is. And if that's the case, which is my belief, we're all stressing out way too much about the wrong things, meaning, how can I act this way or be this way or wear this or look like this or say this so that these people like me or accept me. So the issue with that is that it can never work, okay? Because the essence of being a human in Earth School is to just be you. And then, of course, all the wonderful things that you choose to do, in this incarnation accentuates that. That's how you explore and enjoy being you. And what does that mean? Well, it's 11:11 right now, Eastern time, so that's really cool. Yeah. So, and that's actually very synchronistic because 11:11, you guys, if you ever see that number, that is an indication, a sign of self-reflection, okay? And that's a synchronicity which will show you that you're walking a path of your authenticity, of your highest excitement, okay? Boom. And another self-reflection might come back that you're not, and that would be you feeling anything low on the emotional scale, okay? So feeling compressed, which is the word I use instead of depressed. I could talk about that later. Feeling left out, feeling FOMO, feeling not good enough. So when my clients or readers or students say to me, I'm unworthy or I'm not good enough, I always say to them, really? Well, that's interesting. You are the one exception, of all humanity, because all of us, just by being our authentic self, right, are worthy. That's it. Before you do or say anything, right? So when a little baby is born, this beautiful newborn baby, you don't say, you're not worthy. What have you done so far to be worthy? So your authentic self is simply who are you when you're absolutely just doing exactly what you feel like doing in that moment, and feeling that lightness, that excitement. It doesn't have to be like jumping off the walls. It could be a feeling of peace or clarity or whatever, and that confidence in that, no matter what the peanut gallery is thinking about that, because that's really none of your business. And the paradox is, when you truly are your authentic self, people will actually love you, because people just want you as you, and they can smell that inauthenticity right away. That's a really long answer.
No, but I love that. But the thing is, from what you said, when we are born into this world,
Yeah.
we are meant to be worthy of all things that are for our highest good. We are wanting to be surrounded by love. We are wanting to be accepted. And then what happens is, along that journey, our parents and our environment start to kind of dictate and inform us of what that needs to look like. And so for different backgrounds and different environments, that can look completely different. For instance, if you grow up maybe in a South Asian household, growing up, you are told that in order to become successful, or what's deemed to be fulfillment, is you having a big house, you being a certain profession, you having a certain amount of kids, yada, yada, yada. Right? And so now you've been programmed in a way to be thinking like, this is what happiness is. And so in that journey, you start to accomplish those things that have been externally influenced upon you. And along the way, you may feel a sense of excitement because, again, there's been this programming in our brain that has told us that this is what success feels like. But in that journey, you'll notice yourself, at least I can speak for myself, that there becomes like a misalignment, because who I was when I was 15 and getting these concepts taught to me is not who I am now that I'm 35 years old or 40 years old. Yeah. And I'm still chasing those old beliefs and those old systems that were ingrained in me at a young age. And you will notice that misalignment showing up in your everyday being in ways of feeling stressed, feeling burned out, projecting on other individuals, feeling periods of anxiety. And that's when you should take some time to look back and see, what is it that's really causing this for me? Am I actually living my most authentic life? And authenticity to me is when you're living a life that is aligned with your beliefs and your values, and that society has not deemed that is right for you, and you have not conformed to anything that society has. The issue is that we don't go back later in life to readdress what is it that our beliefs are. What is our values? Because we've just been told what those beliefs and values are throughout our whole life, but those things can change. And it's important for us to re-identify that so that we can truly lead a life that is, from the core of it, authentic to who we are, based on what our beliefs are, based on what our values are, what our character strengths are, that foundation, and then move in life in that direction, So that part, I feel, is really important to being authentic. But the problem is that when you get to the age of 30 or 40 or when you're 25, whenever you have these realizations, that change is hard. Like all of a sudden, you're going to want to try to be something that you've been holding inside of you for so long. Like, and then all of a sudden you built a whole life around it. You might have built a marriage. You might have kids. You might have, friend circles that are built on these values and beliefs that aren't aligned with who you are anymore. So how do you change that? Because that's scary.
Yeah. That happened to you, right?
That's what I'm saying. That happened to me. And I'm sure that's happening for a lot of listeners out there, that they build this whole life that is completely inauthentic to who they really are in the inside. Because who we are meant to be in the inside is that little kid who was in that baby, that was in that womb, that was surrounded by love and nurturing, that came out, that shined in the world, that I can be anything I want to be, an astronaut, a musician, an actor, all those dreams that we had at a young age, but then society started deeming that is not the right way to live because it's unrealistic for you to become an actor. Only 1 out of 150 million people become it, or you can't become a musician and make any money. What do you want to be, homeless your whole life, right? Like these are the things that start poisoning our minds. So it's like, along the way, those dreams are almost killed for us by society. But when we want to get back to that, how do we do that? Like that's the tough part,
Yeah. I want to go back. I love everything you said. And I want to go back to something you did that was brilliant. So when I was defining authenticity, I was defining authenticity from a feeling, emotional place. And what Dr. Nick did was he went to the foundation of that, which are the beliefs. Okay, so everything in your life goes like this. It goes very quickly, but it's beta, belief, then B, belief, then E, emotion, then T, thought, then A, action. So you can remember it as beta. That helps me remember it. So belief is first. And I love what Dr. Nick did because he brought it back to that foundation. Think about when you build a house, right? You can have a beautiful house, but it's a house of cards if there is not a firm foundation. You need to build that house. That's interesting. I said burn because I was thinking of LA when I said that, but you can build that house on a rock. So just prayers to all the people in LA, by the way, who are dealing with that. So anyway, the beliefs are the foundation, all right? So, and I'm going to get to what you asked because it's a great question. So one tiny little tweak I would say is that and this is going to bring the power back to where it is, which is within you, Dr. Nick, the listeners, the viewers, whatever. So the power is within you. Okay, so the society, your family, the society, your teachers, your friends, whoever, the neighbors, whatever, the peanut gallery, all of that, absolutely is giving messages for sure. And you are being spoon-fed more than baby food when you're little. And mostly I prefer to think all well-meaning, even if it seems misguided, and however, exclamation point, you are the entire universe in that you create your reality through the multi-dimensional crystal that is you, that projects, okay? So imagine a crystal, beautiful crystal. I love crystals. I have them all over. And you're projecting your light, which is your spirit, through that and then creating this world, okay? So yes, you're getting all the feedback, right? And your lower mind, which I call your ego or your negative ego or your inner critic, you could call it whatever you want, that is going to pull in all those, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Your higher mind up here doesn't give a rip about any of that, okay? He, she, or they is like, this is who you are. That's the best ever. And is constantly shining that to you. Always. You never have to ask. You just have to tune in. You don't have to ask. It's there. Right. There. It's just, where are you? Yep. So yes, you're getting input. However, so what I love to do, and this is going to answer the question of how the heck do you do it when you're, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, blah, blah. No. I have people come to me in their 60s who are like, I don't prefer what I'm doing. I want to change everything. And it's not a problem at all. Okay. Now the lower mind would say, there's no way. All right. Your higher mind's like, hello, I've been talking to you for now, 60 years, whispering this to you. Nice to see you. Your higher mind never gets impatient, nothing. Okay. Because everything is divine timing. I just had clients get married last year at age 60. True love, always loved each other, age 60, best ever, happily ever after. Okay, so that's for people who are like, it's too late for me, or blah, blah, blah. That's your lower mind, okay? So yes, you have all this input coming in for sure. And the way that you can know if it's in alignment, as Nick was talking about alignment, with your higher mind, who is just authentically you, okay, is how it feels. That's that E, right? So you got the belief, and if the emotion feels anything but good, which I call flumpily, you're not in alignment with this one, okay? So what do you do? So Nick said, what do you do when all of a sudden, you start to notice, wait a minute, I don't really like my life, or I'm not, my heart is really in that, and I built this whole world. What do I do? So Nick, what did you do? I want to hear what you did, because you did it successfully.
I things got overwhelming for me, where when I was trained to believe that a certain way and a certain lifestyle needed to be maintained, that is my ego that was speaking to me. And so when your ego is leading the way, then you are always constantly looking for control. And so when you're trying to control every aspect of your life, that's when things start slipping through the cracks. And then you try to keep putting nails in those cracks, and then another hole opens up. It's like, think about when you're if you're supposed to be a river, and the river has a lot of waves, a lot of turns, and swishes, swooshes. And then if you try to build a dam, and then when you build a dam to try to make it a straight channel, what happens is that pressure starts increasing. That water pressure will start going up. And think about that as your emotions start building up. When you try to control them, or you try to live in a way that others or society is making you live this straight and narrow edge life, that pressure builds up. Then that pressure is going to lead to water slipping through those cracks of that dam. And then eventually that water is going to make the dam explode wide open, right? So that's what happened to me. And so first thing I did was let go of control. I surrendered to the way I was doing things in life. It wasn't for my highest good. I wasn't trusting my own intuition because I was scared of not knowing what the future was going to hold. And that fear of the unknown, I feel, is what keeps people stuck in their inauthentic ways, because change can be very scary if you're looking at it like that, and that type of narrative. So I had to then switch my mindset to being like, I cannot sustain living the way I'm living currently because it has caused me a lot of despair in my life. So I need to do things differently. And I let go of control. I put my ego to the side, and I sought out resources and help that would help me better align myself with what I wanted to accomplish. Because while I was working in the hospital, I always knew my higher self was telling me, like Taylor has eloquently pointed out, it is constantly telling you that this is not the way your life is meant to be. But somehow at that time, I'm hearing it, but I'm not really receiving that message. I'm just like, I'll figure it out somehow. Like how I'm supposed to be living the life I'm meant to be living, which for me was to be creating something, my own business that was going to help heal individuals in ways that I thought were going to help them sustain a more happy, emotional, fulfilling, and physically fulfilling life. But I just didn't know how I was going to get there. And so it's when I let go of the control and I was able to clear up the distractions, it allowed me to listen to my higher self and be like, Nick, you really want to pursue this? Yes, it can be scary. You're going to need to change certain aspects about yourself that are going to help get you to what your higher self is telling you to do. Now, you just have to have belief in yourself. Just belief in what you are trying to accomplish. That is the biggest thing I can tell people, is that you have to have an unshakable belief in who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, and then take action on that. I had to do that by myself. And then what that did was attract other individuals who were also on a similar journey, and they want to help you make your dream come true, because that is a part of their journey, is because their journey is to help other people's dream come true in different aspects. For instance, like Taylor being such an incredible coach for me, someone like Kevin Drummond, who is a business-minded coach who has helped me develop the business, because that was not one of my strengths, but that's one of his strengths, And so we all start being fulfilled because we're doing things that are helping us, get to where we want to. And at the same time, it helps others do that as well. So we have like a purpose. So getting into your authentic self, there can be some change. Sorry, there will be change. There will be a little bit of chaos or disruption to your comfort zone. You're going to need to step out of that.
Yes.
But it's in that fear of the unknown is where your greatest creativity occurs.
Yes.
Because you have to do something. You have to make a plan. You have to create. And that creation is, I feel, one of our core reasons for being on earth is to create. Right? Whether we're creating babies, we're creating a life, we're creating a job, but it's creation. It is a core part of who we are. And there's nothing more satisfying than to be creating something that is truly aligned with your soul's purpose and mission on earth.
Absolutely. And I love everything you said, everything backing. I guess the only tweak would be the words you said were something like society has, the values or whatever has done this to you. Remember, nothing can do anything to you. That's that lower mind, right?
Right.
So, and what what Dr. Nick said was, when he was in the ER, he could hear the messages from his higher mind, right? But he wasn't receiving them. So what's really cool about what you said is, if you guys can think about this, there's Dr. Nick's higher mind, right? And that mind is always creating, conceiving. So creation in any form, and it could be creating muffins, it could be creating, a project, it could be creating a better system for your laundry, it could be any kind of creation, it could be a huge, far-reaching world peace creation, down to creating a better, system for your kitty litter, who knows? But it's creating, and if you're not creating, you are literally slowly dying, because your spirit needs that. Just like you need air, you need water, you need sleep, you need food, in that order. Actually, I think it's air, water, sleep, then food, or something like that. But creating is, I think, number 5. These are, you have to create. Now, as Dr. Nick said, there's no, correct definition of creation. When you're creating and you feel it, and time just slips away. You're in the moment and you're like, what? That was 3 hours. I thought it was 5 minutes. And my knowing, not hope, my knowing for all of you is that that is your birthright. And that's actually the easiest, most downstream thing to do, even though, yes, there will be challenge when you change, whatever as Dr. Nick was saying. However, the easiest thing you can do is to be your authentic self. That's the easiest thing. The hardest thing you can do is to be someone else. So while your lower mind, your ego, your negative ego, so let me just clarify something. We all need an ego in physical reality to ground us, to say, I'm on earth, there's gravity, blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, we're like floating around up here all the time. That's why I do a lot of yoga, okay? So, because I tend to be up here more. So, so that ego is not negative. You cannot kill your ego, nor do you want to, right?
No.
You don't want to kill, first of all, you can't, but you don't want to push or kill or fight anything. You want to, you choose to choose, and then whatever's not relevant just kind of is, it's not relevant. It just kind of floats out. Now, your negative ego, your critic will say, are you nuts? Like, you've trained your whole life to be a doctor. Like, you can't do this.
Exactly.
No way. There's no way. How are you going to do it? And you just can't. And so here your higher mind is floating constantly. All right. The knowing, it comes in like blocks of thought. It's not like you're not like hearing words. It's more like you just have this knowing. And then what the lower mind does is it just bats it away, right? That's not possible. I'm not a person who, gets a divorce. I'm not a person who leaves being a doctor. I'm not a person who, whatever. It's just not possible. So when you hear that, it's lower mind. Your higher mind would never say that, ever.
Yep.
It just won't. So what happened with Nick was eventually his middle mind, so it's conceive, higher mind, received, and then his lower mind had to perceive it, all right? And that's where it hit the shit hit the fan, because your lower mind is going to push and amplify fear that is not real. There's nothing there. Yeah. There's literally nothing there. Because remember, if you go back to the fact that your only job is to be you, how could there be anything there? It's all made up.
That's right. And I think people also, what I realized in this was that you can only fake it till you make it for so long. Like people, if they understand universal law, that for every action that's put out in the world, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Now, if your actions that you're putting out in the world are not authentic and truly aligned with who you are, well, then there's going to be an equal and opposite misaligned action that's going to come back to you. Okay? And so if you understand what that means is like, if I'm, say, for instance, getting married because my parents told me that I need to be married at a certain age, but I'm not truly in love with this individual, but I know that by getting married to them, I'm going to have a really nice life. They come from a lot of money. There's good prestige that comes there. Yeah. How that's going to show up in your life in the next several years is going to be because you decided to get married from a place of superficiality and a lower chakra system, is that there's not a connection there. There's no crown chakra. There's no real emotional depth. And what that does is lead to a lack of intimacy in your relationship. And then that leads to things like people having affairs. You start feeling emotional resentment. And then that leads to symptoms like if you're having kids, those kids will notice that there's not a true attraction between their mom and dad because they're not seeing what normal love looks like, what a true aligned love looks like. Because they'll go to other people's houses and they will see that. And then they'll go to their parents and be like, well, how come you're not like that? And so then they'll get to points where you will start projecting on your children. So I'm just giving an example as to how things can play out in your life when you do things that are misaligned from who you truly are. And then how that not just affects you, but every single person in your life. So what Taylor is saying is that if you can understand that being authentic to who you really are and leading that life, that will truly bless, and I mean it, bless all the other people around you that are in contact with you, because you're living freely, you're living with passion, you're living with like love. And yes, initially that may cause a little bit of friction. There may be some people who might not want to get a divorce, or they might feel like you're ruining things. But no, you're not, right? Like that's what they're going to tell you. That's the stuff that you're going to go up against. But you have to know better that when you are aligned with your highest self and who you truly are, eventually that is going to be what's best for everyone and all parties involved. It's about getting out of that toxicity and living your true essence and who you really are. It's coming from a place of love.
It's so true. Think of gears. So we're all gears. So every single feeling, thought, we'll start with belief, emotion, thought, and action. Every single one turns the gears a little bit. Everyone, okay, because we're all this, the universal laws are everything is now, you exist. We are all one. What you put out comes back, and everything changes. Number 5, except for the first 4 laws. And so I want to get to change in a second, but the gear idea is really, really important, because, when your critic, your lower mind, who by the way is you, so don't hate your critic, love your critic, and absorb, embrace your critic, and say it's all good. Your critic feels like an imposter. Your critic feels FOMO, like they are gonna be left out, because they know that they can't create. They know that all they can do is look back and say, yeah, but what about this? This is gonna happen again, or what about that, or what about the Joneses? And so they amplify, because it's a structure. Okay, so maybe we can put up later the visual of this, but the negative ego uses negative beliefs, which are segregative, right? Pulling apart. So if you think of, again, it's not about killing, hating, pushing away. It's about just saying, you're good. Go in the back seat. Here's a snack. Here's a juice box. Take a nap. Relax. You're good. Higher mind is going to take care of all of what? Of the how. So the lower mind jumped in with Nick when he was hearing his higher mind in the ER saying, the lower mind, his critic was saying, well, that's just not possible. How would you ever do that? So the how is what temporarily kills dreams, because you don't have to know how. You can't know how, because, you can make it up. You can kind of come up with an idea of how, but it's not going to go that way. It's going to be better, or maybe sometimes the same, but usually it's better, unless you resist it and you go, no, it has to be this way, because this is the way that I want it to be, and I have to control it. So when you surrender to the true control, which is everything is working out exactly as it should.
Yes.
Without a spreadsheet, you don't need it. If you want to do a spreadsheet, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with spreadsheets, but only if you do it and then you let it go and just let it flow. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. I love that. So I'm now thinking like, all right, we are trying to get to our authentic self. All right. So, the first way that I feel like, how do we get there? What is it that we're trying to, how do we listen in more? And that's the main issue, right? Is that we are constantly distracting ourselves all the time, whether, we are always on our phones, whether we are constantly trying to help other people out, and we're people pleasing and we're overextending ourselves, or we're working too much, or in our downtime, we're constantly watching TV. There's always a distraction. And it's interesting because a while ago, I would say several years ago, when I would have a little bit of downtime, there would be all these thoughts that would come to my head, and they weren't the most positive thoughts, because those thoughts would be like, Nick, what are you doing? Like, this isn't what's going on right now, isn't healthy. But then I would quickly shut those thoughts out, right? Because again, those thoughts are uncomfortable, but those thoughts is your higher self telling you that what's going on right now, this is not sustainable. that something isn't being fulfilled within you. And I'm sure those that are listening out there right now can certainly relate that there's been periods in your life, or maybe currently, that when you're having that alone time, whenever that does occur, again, in today's society, we are constantly being distracted. But when you do have that, those thoughts that you're feeling, that's your body, that's your higher self telling you, hey, there's something that needs to be done. So for me, eventually, when I surrendered, I spent a lot of time in self-reflection. I spent a lot of time like in solitude, but it was like purposeful solitude. It was like that I was trying to, when I would wake up in the morning, I would leave my phone, untouched for at least 2 hours, so that when I woke up, I would just be in my thoughts. I would be walking my dog, but I would be, allowing myself to just ease into the day and see what is coming up in my mind that day. Like, is there something I need to be addressing? What is that? There probably are some difficult conversations I need to be having, or there's something I need to be pursuing. Our mind and our subconscious is constantly talking to us. It's just about us working on receiving that information. And especially when you're new and you're just trying to change, those thoughts can be daunting. So, Taylor, tell us, like, what are some strategies that you've helped your clients with for them, in order for them to tap into their higher self, but more importantly, getting aligned into their authentic nature? Like, how can they go about doing that? The steps that they need to take?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that to start, to remember that it actually isn't hard. So even that's a belief, right? So your lower mind is even funneling that through that it's hard. It isn't actually hard. And when you define anything as hard, that's valid. It's all valid. And listen, you get to keep your hand on the stove as long as you prefer. I love to teach and coach and live how to take your hand off the stove now and feel good now, because the idea of process, which again is fine. Okay, I'm trained as a psychologist. I understand process. I'm not going to take anything away from anyone. I am not pitching anything here. I am simply describing how reality is created. And it's not kind of a philosophy or a euphemism. It's just, this is how your reality is being created from within you. And that's a really cool thing in and of itself, that I, meaning you, the listener, or Dr. Nick, you're creating all of it. And that's a lot of power. It's the power of illusion. So to begin, note that when you immediately have the thought or the feeling, which is arising from a belief that says, this is hard. Now, I understand why Dr. Nick said it, because it's different and it's uncomfortable at first, because not for me at this point, because I love change at this point. I've so trained myself, but for most human beings, they equate, change or something that's different to hard. Again, that's a belief, and you can flip any belief. And so the key, kind of the umbrella key, if I could tell you one thing, is that circumstances, so what's happening, circumstances in 3D don't matter. Okay? It's your state of being that matters. And that's also a metaphor. Think of matter. Okay? So your state of being is what creates matter, the circumstance. So it's the other way around that we think, because we say, you know what everyone says. So, it's cart before the horse. So to understand that immediately when you think this is hard, right? So, wait a minute. It's different. You could switch, you could soften a little. This is different, or this is unfamiliar, or this is odd. Those are all better than hard, right? So you just want to kind of soften and begin to see, when you have an emotion like overwhelm, it's you stop and you say, no, wait a minute. So first is awareness. I feel overwhelmed. That's awesome when you know, right? And you say, what must I believe? Remember, belief is first, B-E-T-A, beta, to be true. What must I believe to be true to feel overwhelmed? and then see if something bubbles up in that moment. So as it comes up, remember your higher mind is brilliant. It will only allow what you can handle to bubble up, which is why I'm not a huge fan of like the excavation model of like, let's go back and dig everything up. I'm a fan of when it bubbles up, right there in that moment, go for it. I am afraid right now. Okay, so what must I believe to be true to feel afraid or overwhelmed? And I always suggest go right to the front door and visualize this, okay? And open the door for fear. You invited the fear. Remember, you're doing all of it. It's all your universe, right? So, and you say to the fear, what do you got? What do you have for me? Usually the fear will say something like, you can't do this. Who do you think you are? You're not good enough. You're unworthy. I mean, it's so cliched at this point for me because I hear it all day long from all the critics of my clients. And it's kind of fun to think of it that way because then it's not, ooh, scary. It's like, oh, you again. Same thing. Okay, that's valid. Come with me into the dark. And you say, no, thanks. And that's it. But you don't scream at the fear. You don't, kill it, because once it delivers its message, it can go on its way. It's like when UPS comes and they need the signature, right? They're not going to leave the package till you, and if you're not home, not present, can't sign for it. So how to be able to do this on a daily basis, I highly recommend what Nick suggested. Okay. So, and by the way, the distraction, you're choosing all of it. Nobody's like cramming that phone into your hand. You're picking up the phone. You're turning it on, looking at it.
But that's the thing, is that what most of our life has been programmed through our subconscious. 95% of our day is like, we become creatures of habits. And so it's understanding that this is like, we wake up in the morning, we check our phones right away. We then go and look at our emails, and then I go walk the dog, and then I brush my teeth or whatever it is. It's like, if you understand that you have a certain pattern that you're doing, and it's about being intentional on breaking some of those patterns and readjusting them so that you're being able to have some alone time to yourself and to your own thoughts, so that you can start processing what those thoughts are without being distracted by, distractions that, you're right, we put in to ourselves every single day. And so
you're doing it, but it is, I call it sloppy, lazy thinking and sloppy, lazy living. So not in,
good point. I like that. Sloppy, lazy thinking. Yes, that's exactly lazy. Right. Yep.
We all do. Everyone does it. But
exactly.
So the easiest thought to think, Dr. Nick, is the thought you've thought the most. So what you can do, and that's easy, but what I said earlier is it's easy to be yourself, right? And it's hard to be someone else. So you may be having an easy thought that came from an emotion, because remember, the emotion came first. By the way, emotions don't exist in a vacuum. Nothing does. The emotion had to come from a belief. It had to. So people, and really the really tough thing is when people just skip right to action, right? So they have really quick as lightning, belief, emotion, thought, and then they go into action to try to undo what just happened. And that's where we have, things unraveling on this planet, because when you act out of alignment, it's never going to go well. Okay. It's like going to a really bad restaurant and expecting good food. It's not going to happen. It's just not. So the idea is alignment first, right? So, and that is a practice, and that does require you to make a decision, a choice. So earlier, Dr. Nick said the most important thing when I was asking him, how did you do it? Because he is a superhero and he has done this and he's in the middle of doing this and he is living what he's talking about. If I were you, people listening, I would listen to people who are doing what they're saying. I wouldn't, notice if they're living what they're saying, because that's really important. But anyway, he's living it. And what he said was, my biggest thing is believe in yourself. Now, here's the best news ever. Right now, in this moment, every single person who is listening to this is as confident as they will ever be. All right? They believe, they have trust, as strong as they ever will. They're the best manifestor there'll ever be. I'm talking to all of you, and you're not the exception. The question is, this is just fine tuning. What or who do I believe in? Where are you putting your belief? You don't have to cultivate belief or confidence or trust. People come to me, they go, Taylor, I need trust. I have no trust. I go, well, yes, you trust that you don't have trust. Or I need confidence. And I say, you're pretty confident about that. So it's just switching. What am I choosing? Not trying. Please don't try. Don't try. Just choose it. So the reason why we say try is because our critic is saying, you're going to fail. So you better say try. So otherwise you're going to look like an idiot. First of all, you won't look like an idiot. That's not true. That's a belief. Second of all, if you don't quote unquote succeed, remember the definition of success is being you. So you've already succeeded. Third of all, if society or whoever or your critic says you didn't do it right, it's the 2-word mantra. Are you ready for the very wise? Ready, everybody? So what? So what?
Yeah.
Who cares? You can use who cares too. So you just keep acting, but from alignment. Okay. So please hear that action is necessary. So you can study and read and listen and talk till the cows come home. But if you don't act, it just doesn't matter. Okay. It doesn't matter. Action is where it is. But if you don't do the groundwork, right? The foundation of taking the time. And I highly recommend what Dr. Nick said. Now, everybody has different permission slips. For me, personally, I love yoga. I practice every morning at 4 a.m. No matter what time I go to bed, I'm up at 4 and I practice yoga and I meditate. That's me. That works for me. It's worked for 25 years. Most people don't stick with the same thing that long. That's unusual, by the way. Usually you're bopping around. Like, okay, it might be yoga. It might be walking your dog. It might be meditating. It might be journaling. It might be taking a hot bath. Your permission slip will feel, you will be drawn to it. Okay. So you might try yoga and be like, I can't stand this. Then don't do it. Do what feels right to you. So find that. I'm very Vata, that's Ayurveda. Ayurveda is fun to look at. You guys, you can do a free thing online, a free test to see your doshas, Pitta, Vata, Kapha. But if you're like Vata and you like to move around, you like to be active, go for a walk, get moving. And sometimes my clients say, when they're in compression, we're going to do a whole separate podcast about what society calls depression that I call compression. Sometimes my clients say when they're in compression and they're very Vata, like they need to move, they're like, I just can't get up. I can't this, I can't that. And I'm speaking for their higher mind. That's what I do in my, when I coach people, I tune into that and I speak for them. Their lower mind is saying, don't get out of bed, stay here, blah, blah. You'll slip on the ice, all that kind of stuff. That's okay. Yep. It's all good. You can't screw this up as long as you keep remembering what Dr. Nick said. Who am I and why am I doing this? Right?
Yep. That why. That's really important. And, it is about taking action, and it's about taking action from your beliefs, your values, and those need to be re-examined. And great ways to have those re-examined are things like meditation, are things like yoga, but being intentional about spending some time in solitude, receiving messages from your higher self, and then absorbing and incorporating what those messages are telling you and taking action on those messages. And that's where it's very, very important. You don't need to have all the answers. You're not. That's the whole point of life, is that we can't know what's going to happen on the other side of the tunnel.
Yeah, you can't.
We just, that's not possible. But I know
but your higher mind,
our ego wants
your higher mind
us
does
to
know, though. Your higher mind knows, by the way, But you don't hear.
You
Go
know,
ahead. Sorry.
exactly. That's what, that's the biggest thing I know I suffer with, and many, many people suffer with, is that they want to know how it's going to be when it's all said and done. Like, who's going to be their friend after a divorce, or what's going to happen. Like, if I switch jobs, like, which job am I going to get into, or how is my business going to take off? There's so many questions. But the thing is, that's where you have to change the narrative in your brain, and you look at that as an opportunity, as a chance of creation, as a chance of going after something that your heart truly desires, and knowing and having the belief that when you make that leap of faith, that you're going to end up on the other side better than you could have ever even imagined. In that journey, you're going to be in like heaven, enjoying, like creating a Garden of Eden on earth, like we can do that. We have that capability, but it's about understanding what it is that's aligned for you and that you want to do, and then taking action. And, there's going to be some noise that's on the outside, like, don't do this, don't do that, you're crazy. All those things are going to come up. They're going to make you feel, people are going to make you feel guilty. They're going to make you feel shameful, whatever they're going to try to do. But you don't have to explain yourself to every single person in your family or your friend group. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. That's the most important thing, is you come up with what is most aligned for what your life is meant to be, and you just take action on that, and you stay strong. And you find your soul tribe along the way, who is going to be the ones that are going to support you on this journey that you're trying to accomplish. I promise you that. I was in the same boat. I didn't know what to do, but just from experience, I made that leap of faith, and it has turned out more incredible than I could have ever imagined. And now, I would say about after a year and a half of doing this, things are just being magnetized to me from all sorts of directions. And it is so incredible. I can't, really put it into words, but it's a blessing. And, Taylor can obviously speak to her own journey, and she has, and how her life has transformed. It is about being focused on yourself and taking action. So, to kind of wrap up the podcast, Taylor, what would you leave with our audience about, like, the takeaways that they should have about what it means to live an authentic life, and what that's really going to do for them throughout their life?
Yes. I love everything you said. Well, one kind of blanket statement. First, for those of you who are listening and you think, well, that's really great, I'd love to meditate and do yoga, but I don't have time. Like that kind of, if you're a critic saying that, I get it. Okay. I've heard it a lot. My students, I had yoga studios for 16 years, and they would say, Taylor, I love it, I feel amazing, I don't have time to do yoga. And I would always say, you don't have time to not do yoga, right? I was attempting to appeal to their brain. If it was their time to do yoga, they would, whatever. So let's say your brain is saying, like, that's nice, or I'm not flexible, or I have no desire, I just don't have time. You don't understand, I'm working 3 jobs, I have, several children, whatever. I get it, all right? So for those people who are listening right now, during the day, as you're walking your path in your life, as you encounter an emotion that doesn't feel good, anything that doesn't feel good, all right? It could be anger, which, by the way, we're going to do a whole podcast on anger, because anger is an aligning mechanism that helps you to know who you are. For 15 seconds, you're angry, feel it, then go to neutral, and then go to, I am this. So anger is, I am not that. Okay. But let's say you have, guilt is really the low, and helps no one. That's not on the menu. And no one, by the way, can make you feel anything. You agree or you don't. And the awareness during that day, when you have this full day where you don't yet have time to meditate, I highly recommend you just choose it. It doesn't have to be a long time, etc. But let's say you just can't today. During this day, all right, the awareness is so essential, and that's amazing that you're aware. Okay, you're not asleep anymore. And when you wake up, it can be a little bit unsettling, because you're going to start to see stuff that you didn't see before when you were asleep, right? When you were like, time to make the donuts. That's from an ad for Dunkin' Donuts. And when you And so when you start to wake up, you're like looking around going, oh my goodness, I don't really prefer this. And so people say, how come I'm doing this? And I'm starting to notice like the negativity more. I thought that would go away. No, it will never go away. You will become more aware of it. Now you get to choose how you respond. And that's your responsibility, right? It's the ability to respond. And at first, you're going to be a sloppy, lazy thinker and doer. You'll probably react, and then you'll go, oh, that didn't go so well. And then you use the 2-word mantra, so what? Okay, I just heard this podcast. I reacted. Let me begin again. All right? That's it. You start again because you're a brand new person in every single moment. Do you know that? Every moment.
Yep.
So even just listening to this podcast, you've become new. So the one kind of umbrella thing you can think about, you guys, is because as Dr. Nick said, you can't know exactly how it's going to happen. And that's actually a wonderful thing because it's exciting once you change your brain around to see that as exciting instead of scary. So what you can say, even if you don't get any of this, but you just are committed to this, you can say, all right, I have no idea how this is going to pan out, but I know it's for the highest good of all. Okay.
Boom.
That's it.
Boom.
That's it.
I love it. I love those words. I use that same mantra, like whatever is happening right now in my life is happening for its highest good. You know, whatever that way is going to be, it is going to happen and it's going to be great, you know? So I love that.
And believe it. So fake it till you make it. You actually need to believe it. And the flip side of that is what? A belief that doesn't feel good. Like this sucks and whatever. Like, why would you, if you know, this is the final statement. This is the best. If you understand that your beliefs are creating your whole world, the universe looks and goes, okay, Dr. Nick, there's a belief. Okay, reflect that back to him. Oh, Taylor Wells, there's a belief, reflect it back. If you know that, that's a fact. That's a universe. Why would you choose a belief that feels bad? It just doesn't make sense, does it? So just catch yourself and go, oh my goodness, I just had a belief that said, you know, beliefs are hard to change. That's a belief. Yeah, okay, choose a different one. And it will be immediately reflected.
Yep, love it. All right, well, that wraps it up for this podcast. We are really excited that in the next couple of weeks, we will be doing some live streaming podcasts going forward. So please be on the lookout for that. And for those who want some more information in order to work with Taylor, we'll put that in the description box. But until next time, peace.